Hi everyone, I'm Folco Panizza, a postdoctoral researcher at the Vita Salute San Raffaele University of Milan, and today I'm going to present my doctoral work on social conformity and norms. Everyone has in mind some story of a generous act that was able to inspire other good deeds. Vice versa, internet provides no lack of examples of polarization of online discourse due to display of toxic behaviors. But beyond the anecdotes, there are empirical studies that confirm that people conform to social decision. What is not clear, however, is what causing it. This research has the goal to figure out why exactly this happens by comparing several competing hypotheses. That social conformity arises from a mindless copying of others, from a change of preferences like taste, or by learning about the rules of the situation. We designed an experiment in which participants play a series of dictator games. Here on the x-axis are resources to the participant, and on the y-axis the resources to another person. Participants choose between a default option that favors them or an alternative that can either be pro-social, increase the gains of another at the cost of oneself, or anti-social, spending money to decrease the other person's earnings. But here's an example. When offered a pro-social alternative, a participant prefers it over the default, and therefore we mark it with a cross. Then the same participant observes an anti-social alternative, and this time refuses it. We track participants' choices, offering a broad range of alternatives, and then estimate an angle alpha used as a proxy for their social preferences. After we've estimated preferences in the task, participants learn about the attitude of another decision maker. This agent displays preferences that are similar to the participants, but is very consistent and more extreme. What we expect then is participants to change their preferences to conform to this agent. Participants play the task once, and we elicit their social preferences. Then observe an agent, after which we elicit their preferences again and measure conformity. But who is this agent? Since this is a between subject design to test different explanations of conformity, the agent can be no one at all, a computer, a previous participant, or a group of previous participants. But let's look at the results. Here on the x-axis is the degree of conformity. The more we move to the left, the more the conformity. And here are the weights of the regression for each experimental treatment. We observe conformity in human treatments, that is when observing a single person or a group of people. Participants also change preferences in the computer treatment. This effect, however, is explained entirely by a pre-registered measure of social desirability, suggesting that change is not driven by computer choices, but rather by the presence of the experimenter. Therefore, participants change social attitude after observing a human agent, and attitude change in the computer treatment seems to be driven by vertical influences from the experimenter. What could explain conformity to human agents? Among the various hypotheses that we test, norm learning seems the more plausible. According to this hypothesis, if there is a social norm in a given context, we learn by observing others how one ought to behave and then conform. One precondition of norm learning is that people behave according to what they think is appropriate. If this is actually true, participants behaving pro-socially and participants behaving anti-socially should have different beliefs about what is appropriate and what is not. To test this, at the end of experiment, we elicit participants' norm beliefs. We show them some of the alternative allocations that they saw during the task and ask them to rate them from very appropriate to very inappropriate. What we expect is that prosocial participants rate prosocial allocations as more appropriate than antisocial alternatives and expect the opposite pattern from antisocial participants. We observe indeed that prosocial participants and antisocial participants have opposite ratings. But not only that, normative beliefs are roughly the same regardless of whether participants observed a human or a computer. who arguably conveys no information about social norms. This suggests that participants observing humans did not change their beliefs about the norms per se, but rather learn how much others conform to the norm, thus increasing its saliency and the importance to conform. To summarize, participants change their social attitude upon observing social agents, and conformity can be explained by social explanations such as social desirability and norm compliance. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening and my doctoral advisors and former lab mates.